is Sunday, the 16th day of February 2014. And we're going to be here as we are every Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. I don't tell this story up front in the broadcast to make it some type of hypochondrial announcement. Just sometimes when the show is affected, a lot of times when I'm sick, which is rare, maybe once a year or so, I have better broadcast because then it makes me settle down and be more thoughtful. But I have about 102 fever right now, and I did go and get a chest x-ray and some other stuff today, and I do have pneumonia in both lungs, but it's good news is it's only on the tops. But I tell you, I had my cousin die of this year, or late last year. My uncle died early this year of this, and it's been called the mystery illness all over the United States. But they're doing a swab test of it, but they say it looks like bacteria. And I don't go to the doctor unless I am in serious pain, coughing up blood. These little buggers are in there having an absolute field day chewing on my lungs. But the reason I'm here is because wild horses couldn't drag me away. Quite frankly, I could hardly stand up earlier. I was in there laying on the couch. But as soon as we go on air, I'm ready. Because the part of my brain that is aware of the threat to society shifts into gear. And I think that's why when I'm tired or been out of town or had no sleep or done whatever, I tend to come in and do the show because it's a crutch. It's actually very, very relaxing until you get off air. Then you're totally exhausted. But David Knight, who filled in last week, and I don't want to say filled in because David is such a joy to listen to because he's so informed and such a wide breadth and width of knowledge. He did last Sunday's broadcast when I took my son and daughters out shooting with one of our friends. But I invited him back this Sunday with us yet again because I just enjoy having his company. And if I need to lean on somebody, he's here. But you know how I am. I'll probably never go to the calls, never even let him talk. But he's sitting over there, and we have a lot to talk about. When we come back from break, I just want to be clear. I believe in medical science. I believe in Western medicine, except the fact that it's been hijacked by the Rockefellers on record. Look it up, Rockefeller medicine. And that they are trying to suppress the good parts of it and expand the bad ones. And here's Time magazine that came out yesterday, I guess on Saturday. Children exposed to more brain-harming chemicals than ever before. And it goes on to admit U.S. studies, Chinese studies, you name it, that fluoride is one of the main ones. And they admit it's brain-damaging children. Not the naturally occurring fluoride that you need a little bit of, the calcium fluoride, but the hydrofluorosilicic acid that's added. They admit it's brain-damaging with children. So that's going to be coming up. And you know, that's my issue and my point. The reason the globalists can get away with stuff like this is it's so diabolical. The average person goes, there's no way they're putting that in the water to brain damage you. No, the Soviets did it in the 30s. Lenin did. That's in not one but two Pulitzer Prize-winning books about World War II because then the Germans, we've got to dig those books back out. I've gone and gotten the citations and read it on air. It came out in the Nuremberg trials that the Nazis were putting it in the forced labor camp water at about 3 parts per million. They put it 1.6 part per million for us. At 3 parts per million, folks, you start getting real submission. And you wonder why the folks in the camps are so submissive. A, they kept them near starvation and killed anybody that spoke up and stood up. So that's A, B. But C, they were on hydrofluorosilicic acid. This isn't a game or a joke. This is a real deal. And it's a window into what we're facing. Now, we have the big top story that's up on Infowars.com. We're going to be covering when we come back. We have some special reports that David Knight has filed on that. They're extremely, extremely powerful that I hope you'll share with everyone you know. U.S. Army builds fake city in Virginia to practice military occupation. That's a story that went viral. The nurse practitioner and the doctors and folks I was talking to today at a clinic I've been going to for 15 years, they all saw that on Drudge Friday and were listening to the show. And he said, are you going to talk about that today? I said, yeah, I'm going in. He was really going to go in with 102 fever. And I said, yeah, I'm going in. Not that I'm some Billy Bad Butt or something. It's just, man, I don't know how long I'll be able to be on air and talk about this stuff. So it's all coming up. And David, you've also got some stuff on the attack on free speech and more, right?
That's right. We got some news about internet freedom. We got news about gun freedom. We got some news about global warming, as well as what you're talking about with the fluoride. We've got some big news about a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals decision last Thursday.
Jones. We're going to cover a familiar theme on this Sunday, the 16th day of February 2014 worldwide Sunday transmission. But there are new, very serious chapters in this unfolding saga. There was a national science board study that was put out Friday showing that 1 out of 4 Americans do not know that the Earth circles the sun. They thought the sun circled the Earth. Of course, it's been known since the days of Copernicus and Galileo that it was the Earth circling the sun. Over a quarter of Americans do not know the Earth circles the sun, according to the new survey. So there you go. They've known since 1543. I mean, they knew hundreds of years before that, or even 1,000, but they would kill you, burn you at the stake, heresy. Just like if you say Obamacare raised your rates, even though it did, or you lost your doctor, it's racist blasphemy to talk bad about Obama lying to you. So Obamacare did lower the price of your health care to that of a phone bill, even though on average it's doubled it and is set to triple and quadruple. No. If Obama said that the laws of gravity were suspended, it would happen. Or you're a racist. Now, getting serious here, ladies and gentlemen, the only reason they can get away with what they're doing across the board is there's really not 2 parties in this country. You've got the Republican leadership on record giving more money to candidates who are running against Tea Party candidates than they are to defeat Democrats. And that's been in the news the last few months. It's on record. We've got all the big associations, all the big business associations lobbying for Tea Party candidates that are just common sense to be defeated. They don't want a real opposition. They don't want 2 parties. They don't want a libertarian constitutional type group to take over the Republicans, which is starting to happen. It's very frustrating to see this group, the Tea Party, who isn't perfect by any stretch and is very diverse, having a real shot at turning things around for this country and, by extension, the world. And to see the whole system, Republican, Democratic leadership, the controlled press, state-run media, combines, going after the Tea Party. Obviously, those are the good guys. If you have 6% approval rating for Congress, if you've got 20-something for Obama in many polls, if you've got the support for this system at the lowest it's ever been in history, the government violating the Bill of Rights and Constitution from pillar to post, then obviously the group being attacked by the establishment 24/7 is the real opposition. And we should take it over. We already pretty much started it, but we should continue to take it over, continue to keep it somewhat free, nothing's perfect, and continue to make inroads with common sense into government. Now, that said, and this ties into the huge news we're about to break here on air, do you know in literally hundreds of public Army manuals in the last 5 years and hundreds of Homeland Security briefing reports given to state police that we've broken and that have been national news, this is all on record, that the #1 enemy going back almost 6 years behind the scenes that they were training for is gun owners, returning veterans, conservatives, libertarians, constitutionalists, Bob Barr supporters, Ron Paul supporters, Alex Jones supporters, get us out of the UN supporters, anybody that doesn't want this country fully gutted by offshore criminals. And notice Obamacare is incredibly unpopular. Almost 80% in National Gallup polls are against it. Last one I saw was 79% were against it. You can pull that up. 79% against Obamacare. In fact, guys, just put that into a search engine. I want to show people that. Some polls are even higher. The point is 79%. So are we all extremists because we don't like it? The truth is we're the real opposition. We're the common sense. What we're saying is popular. That's why secretly in all these training manuals and all these memos and all these military training operations and police training operations and joint operations that violated posse comitatus and a whole string of other federal laws barring domestic military engaging in police activities, like a third world country or North Korea. I mean, the Revolutionary War started over troops on the streets, taking guns. And the difference is now they've gone from having that secret to having it public. And putting out via the Army PR news release department, we have a video, oh, the mock city. And they told newspapers, oh, it's for overseas. And it's all part of lying in our face. It's the D.C. subway. It's all in English. It's 10-story buildings. It's 300 acres. And they're training for gun confiscation. You can clearly watch the videos. And it's all over the Army Times and Stars and Stripes the last 3 or 4 years. They're doing that. But in the PSYOP, the military saying, you know, don't run, we're your friends, this is for overseas. And even the papers, and I'm going to read this, said, oh, you know, it's even got a mosque, and it's a Baptist church with Gothic windows, stained glass, and a steeple. And you say, why would they lie like that? Because they've been ordered to. And in a real psyop, you lie on purpose to condition people to just accept lies. This is very sophisticated. Remember 4 months ago, the Pentagon came out with an hour-long press briefing that we played clips of with the Deputy Secretary of the Department of Defense. And they said, look, the public doesn't buy our psych warfare anymore. We've got to start telling the truth, A. B, we've got to go out and engage the public. Now, that was another lie. Going out and engaging the public is buying off the blogs, infiltrating, dirty tricks. And this is going on, by the way. And starting infighting and disinfo. And I want to be clear. In any country, whether the country falls to tyranny or stands up against it, the military and then the police are the key sector. We're not criticizing the military here to bring this up any more than we criticize the German military saying don't follow Hitler in 1933. But when you become willing servants of an offshore crime cartel, it's a serious issue. So I wanted to go over a special report David Knight filed Friday night for InfoWars Nightly News that is particularly powerful. It's up on Infowars.com if you want to actually see all this. But for radio listeners, I'm going to air it. DrudgeReport.com, link to it Friday. It caused a big buzz. I went to a doctor's office today because I've got a serious cold, and they all came back and kind of got around me and said, you know, a lot of us are former military, and we know what's happening, and this is really dangerous. And we saw that report, and that's clearly an American city. And, well, yeah, the fact is the military is actually in all their training manuals saying the #1 threat is, quote, the Tea Party. That's even been in Washington Times, Forbes, Associated Press. Again, years after I told you, and people say, some say, well, Alex, why, you know, did you tell us about this 15, 16 years ago? But, you know, it's here now, but what's the problem? Well, I saw it a long way off. I knew it was illegal when they were doing secret military gun confiscation, real operations from South Carolina to Texas. And I was interviewing Marine Corps captains and others off record. And I was going to their houses with their uniforms, you know, with the hanging in the closet, the whole 9 yards. They were showing me all this. They were explaining how illegal it was. So I was telling you, and it was a covert, very small operation. It's, let's not exaggerate, it's about 1,000 times bigger now. And now they're going operational with it in the news, the sitcoms, the dramas, and they're running fake newscasts we're going to air, produced by Homeland Security, where gun owners are terrorists killing police. So they're casting gun owners, libertarians, conservatives as the terrorist ahead of a false flag event or provocateur event to literally start a civil war. And the fact that we've been exposing this so long has been holding it back. Exposure of this can stop it. We're going to be right back with David Knight. In the last... Now, remember, if you study history, but 1 out of 4 Americans doesn't even know the sun is the center of the solar system. They think the Earth is, in a new study. If you know basic history, you know having militarized police, military on the streets, checkpoints, databases, that you're in a very dangerous, oppressive country. And capital controls are being set up. Domestic checkpoints are being set up. They're going down the list and consciously putting a very serious police state grid in place, not just here, but in every major industrialized world, to convert us to the Agenda 21 system of total government and corporate control. And you've got hundreds of trucks every few months, giant armored vehicles from Iraq being deployed and delivered to police everywhere. You've got them training. I've got their manuals here. We have articles up on Infowars.com right now with links to the Army's own website where they talk about how they're going to put us in re-education camps. They use the Soviet term. Now they're going to process our Social Security numbers. Remember Katrina? They went and took the guns. And it's not that the military itself's bad. It's that it's being used for this. And so there's a cultural battle. If we cry out against this and say, hey, we need to do something about this, we need to reverse this, this is a serious situation, then we can reverse it. But if the trolls, who are paid for in most cases, go, there's big deal, there's armored vehicles. Big deal, they're training in mock U.S. cities for gun confiscations. They may need it. People are on Infowars.com, minority of them, and on Fox News and others that picked up this story, going, well, hey, the Tea Party might try to take over. Thank God they're doing this. So the attitude is, see, this is the new enemy, not Al-Qaeda. Homeland Security has said publicly for 3 years the new enemy is domestic terrorism, and the main enemy there is libertarians, conservatives, gun owners. David Knight, you did a video report for the Nightly News Friday on this. We're about to play that and then get into more detail here, but we sit here reading it all. I mean, here it was from last Monday, WSAZ television, where it said, quote, Homeland Security with the military trained for gun owners attacking schools with bioweapons because they're for the Second Amendment. That's just pure scripting that we're the terrorist.
That's right.
I mean, this is so obvious.
You know, when we were covering the military drills in all these various cities, and one of them, I believe it was in Los Angeles, they got a military spokesperson on, and he said, you know, you train for the scenario you think you're going to be operating in. He said, if you train for a mountain, if you think you're going to be in the mountains, you train in the mountains. If you think you're going to be in the ocean, you train in the ocean. And he was saying that in front of a drill where they were going to be working with the police and first responders, fire department, that sort of thing, in a very domestic situation. And so we said, well, if they're going to go into Iran, are they going to have the cooperation of the police there? Or are they going to have the cooperation of the...
Well, I mean, here's the deal. We had the documents back in the late 90s. There is a covert program with military already being used all over the U.S. The Posse Comitatus is gone. They just want to play like this isn't happening and there isn't a huge buildup. And again, gun owners, the Tea Party, people that don't want to bankrupt the country, people that don't want their kids being taught how to masturbate at age 5. We are literally listed as the terrorist is the issue. And they keep playing this game like, oh, no, none of this is going on. Let's go ahead and go to your report. But see, that's the PSYOP. They deny it, even though it's in all their manuals. Yes. And then we make a debate about, oh, whether it's happening or not, instead of why is it happening? What are they getting ready for? Here's David Knight's report.
The Army is very proud of the new American city they've built to practice martial law. The government really can do something quickly. They built this 300-acre city in just 2 years. Compare that to how long they take in your city just to build a road. But then they did have $96 million of your tax money to play with.
To transition from an army of execution, doing what we've got to do, to an army of preparation to be ready for what comes next. This is a place where we can be creative and you can come up with solutions for problems that we don't even know we have yet.
The public may not know the problem yet because they haven't yet executed the false flag event that they'll use to openly activate martial law, but the military has been creating scenarios where they can justify a move against small-town America for quite some time. And they've made it clear that their enemy is gun owners, veterans, those who want a small, limited government, and Christians. The UK Telegraph reported that the town was complete with a subway, railroad, football field, and mosque. Mosque? That's not a mosque. That's a small-town Christian church
with
a steeple and Gothic windows. Mosques have minarets, rounded arches, etc. It's not that they've kept the current military's attitude toward Christians a secret.
That's how dumb they think
it was the U.S. Army that conflated the Ku Klux Klan with mainstream Christian groups like the American Family Association or the Family Research Council, calling these mainstream evangelical groups hate groups. In just the last year, an official Army email and briefings at both Fort Hood, Texas and Camp Shelby, Mississippi attacked Christian groups and said they don't share Army values. Most recently, we've seen a FOIA request that showed last year's training scenario in Ohio identified gun owners and people who believe in limited government as the enemy. And then there's retired Colonel Kevin Benson, currently teaching at Fort Leavenworth, who spelled it out clearly in his vision of the future. When the leaders of the group hold a press conference to announce their goals, they invoke the Declaration of Independence, and they argue that the current form of the federal government is not deriving its just powers from the consent of the governed, but is actually destructive to these ends.
6% approval.
Therefore, they say the people can alter or abolish the existing government and replace it with another. And while mainstream politicians and citizens react with alarm, to the words of the Declaration of Independence, the Tea Party insurrectionists in South Carolina enjoy groundswell of support from other Tea Party groups, militias, racist organizations like the Ku Klux Klan. And as we've shown you many times in the past, U.S. military documents describing CONUS operations, that's the continental United States, where rules regarding the use of deadly force in confronting dissidents are made disturbingly clear with the directive that a warning shot will not be fired. Or this document that talks about policies that would be applied within U.S. territory with the internment, resettlement, indoctrination, and re-education of political dissidents using their social security number. Clearly, it's not for foreign operations. And finally, I think it's significant how detailed these buildings are. They could easily train for foreign urban warfare using concrete shells of buildings which are cheaper And that's what they've done in the past. But here they have a completely intact American town, down to the Washington, D.C. subway logos, and a small church building. Looks like they're training for a different kind of conflict. President James Madison wrote, "The means of defense against foreign danger have always been the instruments of tyranny at home." But as Alex Jones pointed out in his documentary 9/11, The Road to Tyranny, way back in 2001, FEMA was telling firefighters and other emergency personnel in Kansas that the founding fathers were terrorists.
That's very difficult. When people are passionate about what they believe in, they become a very difficult enemy to beat. Who was the first terrorist organization in the United States? Who? Founding Fathers. Founding Fathers. You mean Thomas Jefferson? Oh, yeah. You mean George Washington? Oh, yeah. Paul Revere? Yeah. These guys right here, let me ask you something. Did they try to scare people? Oh, yeah. They tried to intimidate the British. Did they use acts of violence? Your founding fathers, my founding fathers, were involved in acts of terrorism.
Posse Comitatus? Constitution? That's just yesterday's red tape.
We're going to go to break and come back and get David Knight to break this down. I'm Alex Jones. And we're going to get into a bunch of other demonization videos they're producing, the military for police. Fake newscasts. Stay with us. You wonder why we're in so much trouble. Former top neocon in the Bush administration, David Frum, has come out. We have the article up on Infowars.com and said that if you want to own guns, you shouldn't be able to own guns. If the people that want guns are the people that probably shouldn't have guns. That's not actually true statistically, but what does it even matter? This is the whole collectivist model. You have a political ruling class that literally wants to be in charge with a monopoly of power. And I'll explain to you why this is such a big deal. Why Reuters last Thursday came out and said, oh, look at the EU model. We should do that here where they bail in and take 40% out of your bank account and give it to private banks. We're going to have that here where the government safeguards our 401ks and our IRAs by consolidating them and running them and taking a large piece of them, nationalizing them. That's where all this is going. That's why they're putting the police state in place. That's why they're militarizing the police. That's why they're overthrowing our basic Constitution and Bill of Rights. The Declaration of Independence said he has kept among us, that's the King of England, in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of the legislature. The legislatures. And that's it. I mean, you know third world countries have troops on the street. And I can't go to any big event now, I don't care if it's a kite festival or what it is, without military being there searching bags and stuff, as if a terrorist wouldn't just walk up to the checkpoint and blow it up there. And again, I'm not even against the military person out there doing it. They're being conditioned. The public's being conditioned. I'm being conditioned. You're being conditioned to accept this. And it's targeted in all the manuals at folks that basically like Hank Williams Jr., John Wayne. I mean, literally, I've been to the urban warfare drills. I've made 4 films on it. Road to Tyranny, Police State 2000. They're free online. Go look them up. Where I went to the drills, first of anybody. We're talking in some cases 18 years ago. Where they were training, no, I'm an American, I have rights, not the camp, and practicing executing patriots. I mean, I have it on video, and then the Marine Corps colonel runs over and goes, Jones, you're not supposed to be part of this, filming that, because they let me in to film it, knew who I was. This is out in California in one drill, Urban Warrior 1999. And they were telling the media, it's for overseas. Well, obviously it has a dual use, but they're on tape. I have it on tape going, where'd you get the guns and equipment? In San Francisco. And so your allegiance is to, then the officers run over and say, get him out of here. And they didn't stop us because I already had backup people outside who then said they were just tourists, and they had to give them authorization to let them get the tourist trip. And then they got all the footage. But they're hiding this because it's totally illegal. And now you have the NDAA, all the rest of it. It's very, very serious. David Knight, we have some other fake newscasts they produced last year for Homeland Security that they show police to again, simulate that gun owners are the ones that are going to kill everybody, that gun owners are the ones that are going to launch bioattacks. They had last week, as mainstream news reported, that we mentioned drills where gun owners are going to release bioweapons. Mm-hmm. They are the sitcoms, the dramas, the movies. The issue is this used to happen secretly on a very small scale. Now it looks like a full rollout And what is your take on all this?
Well, we keep seeing it happen over and over again in these scenarios that come out. Over and over again, it's the same.
In almost every case, they're trying to fight Americans.
Absolutely. And if you look back at the NDAA, the thing that concerns everybody when we see this infrastructure tyranny being created, the fact that they would do indefinite detention without trial, be done by the military, and it's put into the defense spending bill, the authorization for that. Now, they also are hearkening to the fact that, well, we have an authorization for the use of military force. So therefore, you know, they see the entire world under this post 9/11 scenario, the entire world.
And again, our military is run by these globalist interests.
That's right. Now, in this video, one of the things that was up there visually that I didn't talk about is I froze a frame there where you could see the handicap parking signs. You mentioned it as you're watching it there. See handicap parking signs in English. You see speed limit signs. Everything about that is a very detailed American city.
And they admit they're training for that in their own documents, but then lie to the media.
Yes.
Because we're the enemy.
Yes.
It's a psyop.
Yes. And of course, they're also going after these mainline Christian groups like the American Family Association, the Family Research Council.
Last year, Fox News, after we broke it, covered it, and the Army Secretary confirmed, you know, we teach that if you're in an evangelical period, you will be court-martialed and you can give no money to the Tea Party.
And you see over and over again these guys with the high-ranking officials, lieutenant colonels, talking about how these are the enemy. They're going right down the talking points of the Southern Poverty Law.
Oh, we have their local, the PR piece put out by the Army from the Asymmetrical Warfare Center. It's up on Infowars.com in the article. And then radio listeners can actually see the video and the documents and the FM field manuals and all the numbers and links. If you're doubting us, this is so amazing. And you can see right there that they're training for domestic operations and that it's just absolute treason. And then, again, the big question is, why are they training to do this? And why in their own video do they say, well, we're preparing for the next war, the next threat? And it's America. It's us when everything collapses.
Well, we just had a retired colonel that used to teach history at West Point write an article in Esquire saying, yes, we will take the guns out of your cold, dead hands.
That was the headline.
Hopefully, you will be dead of natural causes by then. But he said, hopefully. In other words, if necessary, we'll take them and we'll kill you to take the guns out of your hands. Hopefully, you'll die of natural causes. And see, he's teaching history at the military academy. And that's where he sees the future. You know, when they go into the school.
Yeah, hey, it came out that same week when that broke, a month ago when that broke, that multiple professors at Texas A&M are teaching that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this is a total takeover, and they're doing it.
That's right.
I'm now hearing police on the news going, owning firearms is a privilege.
Yes. Yes, and interestingly enough, we see people who are pushing back against this in the courts having victories, just like we had the victory on Thursday in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and we've had victories in both Washington and in Chicago. But of course, even when the Supreme Court tells these liberals, because they maintain that the Constitution is a living document, and if the Supreme Court says
they don't follow it,
they still don't follow it.
Because they're not liberals.
Exactly.
They're authoritarians. Well, what would you call these people?
I would call them authoritarians. That's their status. They want to take over everything, have the government run everything. And they're basically a group of criminals who are running the government. They are not going to be held to any law.
And they've got the Republican leadership on their side.
Absolutely.
Let's play this fake newscast produced last year by Homeland Security. This is in the same article, demonizing gun owners. This is the stuff they show police, because there's no real examples of this, so they manufacture it. They have school drills. We've got video of that coming up, where the gun owners come to kill the children because they're, quote, Tea Partiers, and they tell the kids in the drill,
right,
the Tea Partiers are coming to kill you, which is nothing but mind control. This is brainwashing. This is like Jim Jones saying, you know, drink the Kool-Aid when the feds come, or, you won't go to heaven.
They want people to be deathly afraid whenever they see a gun. That's why they'll sometimes allow concealed carry but not open carry. And they want you to be deathly afraid of certain things like anybody labeled as a Tea Partier. That's somebody that's dangerous, or militia. That's
because that's such a popular movement now.
Yeah.
And is literally taking over the Republican Party. Let's go to that fake newscast. Here it is.
We interrupt our regular programming for this special report. Reports of possible illegal activity by a local militia group appears to have spurred law enforcement into action. John Gleason has our story.
This is the scene of an intensive investigation into the operations of an extremist group reportedly planning a series of terrorist attacks on U.S. cities. Details are sketchy, but allegedly the militia was using this house to store a cache of military weapons. A hazmat unit is now inside the house searching for evidence, while behind me are other local fire and hazmat teams. The FBI is here, as well as other agencies. Earlier today, police raided the house and arrested 2 men on charges of illegal possession of firearms, but they apparently found more than they were bargaining for.
So it's all about creating the hysteria and the simulation that gun owners are about to do all this because, folks, clearly this is all being done to then stage events, blame it on us, and then have political persecution. That's why I harp on this. We're going to come back and cover a bunch of other news on the Second Amendment. Time magazine admits fluoride's brain damaging children. I can't believe that. But, I mean, David, this is just crazy. Because us saying have due process, don't have troops on the street, that's just saying be somewhat of a free country. Yeah. This is 101 free country stuff.
Well, they clearly are training for this kind of scenario. I think that was what was going to happen in Boston. And now we see these attacks on these power plants, and they're saying this one group shot up the transformers, and they release right after that saying that looks like we had another shooting at a nuclear reactor facility.
We're going to come back and talk about that because remember, in Boston, half the city had to come out with their hands up. It'd be like a blonde woman. They put a gun to her head, knock her around, setting the precedent that they could have martial law citywide for one guy who, by the way, got out of their gauntlet and was outside the city, and he's pled not guilty and was a patsy. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com. Look at the story out of Bloomberg. Secretary of State John Kerry burnishes green badge in Asia as volcano disrupts trip. He says, we've seen here in Asia how extreme weather events can disrupt world trade. Kerry said to an audience of Indonesian students as business leaders, it's today's globalized economy. The entire world feels it. And went on to imply that the volcano was caused by man-made global warming. This is all a global tax scheme. And, you know, the truth is, I want to finish up with the Second Amendment news and then get into this other news, but everybody in the system stands to gain by being more free and more honest and not just living in denial. We have another report here out of Time magazine of all places, and I don't just read this in Time and say it must be true because it's in Time. Usually stuff's pretty deceptive in Time. They came out and admitted that fluoride is brain-damaging children in the U.S. and connected to ADHD. That came out actually on Friday, February 14th. That's a big deal. Children exposed to more brain-harming chemicals than ever before. We're going to talk about that in the next hour and open the phones up. Again, David Knight is here with us riding a shotgun. I'm your host, Alex Jones. David, I've been kind of dominating things in between the reports. More points about what we're seeing. I mean, it's so frustrating to be informed. Like the Earth orbits the sun, but a lot of Americans don't think that, and they think we're liars.
I thought everything orbited around Washington, D.C.
Exactly. That's actually where it orbits. I mean, we're informed. It's not our opinion that we're right. That's why the evil people that run the government, both major parties, hate the real liberty movement and are demonizing it and preparing the military and police to fight it because we're the people that know what's going on. And if we get the word out to other folks, it's game over.
Well, that's the thing. They're trying to demonize it. They don't want anybody to, they want everyone to be afraid of guns and gun owners. And so they do what Eric Holder said that they would do.
Brainwash.
They're constantly brainwashing people. We just had this case over in Beaumont, Texas, where this guy's got a gun store, and he was hassled going into the mall where his gun store was because he was open carrying, which is perfectly legal, open carrying a rifle in Texas. And so he had the police called on him. He got hassled by the mall, and so he moved to another location. As part of his grand opening, he's got a guy dressed up as a banana with an AK-47 over his back. And again, this guy gets hassled for
semi-auto. It was like a Mac 90.
Yeah, distracting traffic when down the street they've got a tax place that's got a Statue of Liberty out there. I don't get the connection with Statue of Liberty and taxes, but they're out there telling people that, you know, come here and get your taxes done. This guy was in front of his...
No, in Dallas and in Houston and other areas, they don't allow free speech if it's for liberty.
Yeah, exactly. It's selectively enforced. They say,
you know what I find is crazy?
Feet of a street.
It's the bureaucrats giving these orders, and I'm not kissing the police hind end here. It's the facts, being a talk show host for 19 years, being around the country. After the military, the police on average are probably some of the most conservative libertarian people. Well, polls show it, like 98% pro-gun in polls I've seen in national surveys. So they know, well, why are they following these illegal, unconstitutional orders? What are their unions doing? I mean, look, if they get rid of the Second Amendment, folks, everything else goes away.
Well, the interesting thing is that, you know, we are waking people up, but the mass of the public is also being exposed to this continuous brainwashing against gun owners, against the very sight of guns.
LA Times reported last year that gun crime plunges over 20 years, but public perceives higher gun crime.
Yeah. Well, we just had a Supreme Court, not a Supreme Court, an appeals court decision on Thursday.
Ninth Circuit. And in it, they quoted Heller versus D.C. Now, if you remember, Heller versus D.C. as well as McDonald was the off-duty cop who couldn't have a shotgun.
Right. And both of those established that you have an individual right to keep and bear arms. That's right. The right of the people is, in fact, an individual right, as if we didn't know that. But this court opinion, this circuit court opinion, quotes from Heller, and it also quotes from an 1840 decision, which says things like, the right guaranteed by the Constitution of the U.S. is calculated to incite men to a manly and noble defense of themselves if necessary, and of their country without any tendency to secret advantage and unmanly assassination. So that's language from the 1840s that was quoted.
It's about having a nation of men.
Exactly.
Who can defend themselves, and then you have a professional police force for larger events.
That was language from the 1840s quoted in the Heller versus D.C. So it wasn't just that they were saying you have a right to own guns, but you got to keep them in the closet. You know, they said that you have the right to bear your arms. And so
read that again.
They said, this is a right guaranteed by the Constitution, which is calculated to incite men to manly and noble defense of themselves if necessary, self-defense, and of their country, without any tendency to secret advantages and unmanly assassination.
Yeah, so the general public is trained how to use guns from birth. So that when we had World War I or World War II, the Germans were pretty freaked out.
That's right.
Because especially people from the South or Texas or the West, which had been shooting since they were knee-high to a grasshopper. I've been shooting since I was 4 years old.
That's right.
And people say, how can you do that? Well, you train kids with a 410 with coffee cans, show them the power up front so that people understand don't touch it. By the time I was 6, I could shoot bullseye at 100 yards. And then by the time I was 10, but they're basically phasing all that out, killing that culture, making it specialized. And I watched last night Tom Hanks's movie, Captain Phillips, which they say is pretty accurate. And I've interviewed some of the captains that wrote books even before his case happened about how they go around the Horn of Africa and going to have no guns because governments want the monopoly. They can't even have handguns. If they'd had one deer rifle, they could have shot the 4 Somalis coming in on the back of their boat. They had to, and they almost fought them off with water hoses and flare guns. And, of course, they can be fined for using flare guns. So the ultimate, these guys can drive giant ships through canals and things that could kill thousands of people, just like an airline pilot can be trusted to fly this giant weapon, this giant missile. But, oh, they can't have a gun in the cockpit.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to see this quoted. This is an 1840 decision that they quoted in the circuit court, and they also quoted Heller, and Heller was very good. Heller said this codifies a pre-existing right. In other words, Heller versus D.C., the Supreme Court said, you don't get your rights from the government. The government is simply recognizing inherent rights that you already have, which we
government's supposed to work as a guarantor.
Right. And so we've got some good decisions being made here by the courts.
Exactly. That's what I want to say. There are a lot of good people in the system, in the corporations, in the private businesses. I'm not saying everybody's bad. But the really evil people, the offshore globalists, look at Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, all the regular suspects. Go look at who funds the anti-gun groups.
Oh, yeah.
Go look at who funds open borders. Go look at who funds teaching kids how to be, transgender at age 5.
Well, you've got Bloomberg putting together mayors against illegal guns. And, of course, we see that even though the Constitution says that you have these rights, even though the Supreme Court says you have
they've ignored it for 5 years.
The mayor's still infringing on people's rights, absolutely ignoring the Constitution.
Courts rule they can't do the stop and frisk without warrants.
That's right. And they don't care because this is a group that's in charge of the cities, the big cities like New York and Washington and Chicago, and even some of the small cities where they're just a criminal group of thugs that don't have any legitimate authority because they've put themselves above the law.
By the way, I've protested people like Bloomberg, people like Rudolph Giuliani, the IRS commissioner, you name it, our reporters have. And they will literally send thugs up at a press conference. We're just asking a polite question, or even before we have, and say, hey, get out of here, and grab you by the arm. Get out of here, I'm going to arrest you. And we have to say, we have this on video. We've played many of them. No, First Amendment. Then they back off. But, I mean, you deal with these people. I mean, it's like out of a gangster movie.
Oh, yeah.
And they're that close, folks. They've already signed us on to, according to the USA Today, 1.5 quadrillion in derivatives. To put that in perspective, the national debt's, what, 19 trillion now?
Yeah, I don't know.
So the real supposed debt they've signed us on to, supposedly our debt's 19 trillion, which is still just gargantuan. And is millions of dollars per citizen. Last time I saw a number, I think it's 1,300,000. But the point is that now they've signed us on to these foreign, these are literal mafias Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. And one of the scenarios that they train on where they come after the Tea Party and they come after conservatives is after a meltdown of the economy. And that's what...
Because we're going to say, don't take our 401ks.
That's right.
Don't take our IRAs. They're saying they're going to take them.
Yes, and we see in this article today about Slick Login, this is a company that was bought by Google, where you can essentially log into the internet just by placing your iPhone next to your computer. It's so convenient.
And it uses subaudible tones.
That's right. And part of that demonstration, what they're showing is that this is very valuable for banks, because banks can say that you can only do transactions if you're in certain geographical locations, like maybe your home or your office. At first, it starts out as a security issue, but then they can use it for currency control, because, you know, we live in a prison planet, don't we, Alex? And it's like, well, if you've got a maximum security prison, that's one of the worst prisons you can live in. And they're constantly selling us this under the name of security. So for your security at the bank, they're going to enact currency controls, and they're going to use this phone that you've got, which the NSA was bragging about who thought that Apple would bring in 1984. And they show Apple, they show Steve Jobs, they say, and the zombies would pay for it. This is Big Brother. This is your iPhone. And
the head of Facebook calls their users that trust him dumb effers.
Yeah, yeah.
They're openly training for war. They're ripping us off with Obamacare, Benghazi, Fast and Furious, hundreds of different scandals. And America is waking up, and the only opposition that's forming that knows how the country's supposed to be run in prosperity is being called terrorist, and the military is now saying worldwide, it's not the Chinese government, communists, it's not the Russians, it's not Al-Qaeda. They're saying in mainstream news, we have the articles up on Infowars.com, that it is the veterans, it is the gun owners. Yeah. And they say George Washington would not be welcome in today's army. Folks, that's treason. This is just open treason in your face. Second hour coming up. Stay with us. Coming up at the start of the next segment, I'm going to get into the attack on free speech, then your phone calls. The way these so-called liberals attack and viciously demonize anybody that doesn't agree with them, even for mild counterpoints. Again, we must stop calling these people liberals. And you know, over the years, I've been against the Republicans and the Democrats, and I am against the Republican leadership. But the Democrats, with the demographics, everything, they want to go for it all. They are the big enchilada. And big Tea Party Republicans everywhere are being attacked because when they go to Congress, when they go to the Senate, the House, they actually do what they say they're going to do, like Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, and others. And other Republicans that were more libertarian-leaning are now, quote, radicalizing, which isn't radicalizing at all. Now, we're going to talk more about that coming up in the next segment. But, David Knight, you were going to this other gun piece.
Yeah, I would just say they're not calling themselves liberals either, Alex. They're calling themselves progressives. You know, because every time people realize what they really stand for, they got to change the label. So that's the label of Vogue today. Is.
Well, I've been around a lot of big Democrats. They are social engineers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, they know they are. And they go, of course we're manipulating people, and laugh at me. I want to punch them in the nose.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we're just talking about how they demonize gun owners, how they demonize guns. They want everybody to be afraid of these labels and these imaginary things. They've got schools that are staging active shooter drills with blanks and fake blood in Missouri. This is in Missouri's Lincoln County schools.
It's happening everywhere under federal grants.
Yes, yes. But we've got an interesting video here that IntelliHub put up, and we've got it linked.
Yes, Shepard Ambulance, great researcher.
And just take a look at this video. This is pretty amazing when you hear these kids and you see how they're instilling fear in them.
Yeah, let's go ahead and crank the audio up, guys, if you can.
I stopped, and I meant to run.
The adrenaline gets to you.
But I was kind of frozen in my spot.
They're teaching them to be prisoners.
And he shot me, and I was like, I died, so.
And they've got big gunshot wounds all over their face. Yeah.
And again, the argument is,
like,
oh, this will be good if it really happens.
I'm going to try to
statistically, deer kill more people every year than mass shootings.
The gunman came in.
It's being done to mind control everybody.
And took me.
Come here. Come here. Come with me. Come here.
Teaches him to go with him. I'm
in the hallway and try to open the doors.
Tell him to open the door.
Open the door! Acting innocent so that we could get in and he could kill the people.
And then I got up and I walked out into the middle of the cafeteria and I just looked down and I see people just laying there.
This creates the psychological belief that this is epidemic.
Yes.
This is how they create.
Either way, you're
Yes, you put the LA Times up about gun crime plummets, but perception is it's up.
With all the shootings that have been going on.
Gun crime drops.
They're training as if this is certainly going to happen.
Definitely for the students.
There it is. There's the headline.
A lot of my friends got scared. Some teachers told me their doors wouldn't lock, and they were scared.
Oh, no.
I was just thinking of places.
But don't worry, the state's there to keep us safe.
In the scenario that had ever happened, I couldn't think of any.
The same state that the same globalist corporate government that
this is my first time.
puts the fluoride in the water. That's good.
Do it again.
This is my 10th one.
You know, one of the things I said in there, this is even scarier because it's on my home turf. It's going to make me second guess my own school. They're trying to deliberately scare them. And you know, these kids need to be careful about this kind of stuff because they might find themselves in a real false flag attack. They might find themselves.
That's right. They'll use a drill.
That sort of thing.
They'll use a drill.
Yep.
Exactly.
So it's a very, very sad thing. If you see this video, I mean, they're like walking zombies with gunshot wounds on their head and on their neck. That's precisely what they're trying to do. It's a propaganda campaign, just like Eric Holder said. We're going to make everybody afraid of gun owners. We're going to propagandize them. We're going to brainwash them is actually what he said. Did you ask Kid, who's here working, to post that article? Yeah, I think he's got it up. Oh, there it is. It's in the tiles on Infowars.com. Good job, Kid, up here working on Sunday. Yeah. We should probably put that as the second story, actually. It ties in under U.S. Army builds fake city in Virginia. Practice military occupation. We should probably post the Intel Hub article right there as well. And they're doing it over and over again. And there's just this one county, the guy said they've done it over a dozen of these drills in just the last year that he's participated. Oh, yeah, they never stop. Right. Well, I mean, I've found the actual drill manuals. It's been in the Associated Press. It's, quote, homeschoolers against public education. Yes. They tell them, I'm going to kill you, and then pull the trigger. Homeschoolers. Sometimes they don't tell them it's a drill. That's right. Now, they've been sued over those, so they don't do those a lot. But Minnesota, Texas, they've been sued and lost. We'll be right back, folks. Stay with us. And, folks, I'm not whining. I'm just letting you know if I sound a little bit out of sorts. I've got 102.8 fever. And I've had a fever for 3-4 days now. And I went into the doctor today. They did a chest x-ray and some swabs. I've got double pneumonia, but it's only on the tops of my lungs, so I'm good. And it feels a lot better to be here. David Knight was here in case I had to bow out. And I may do it at the bottom of the hour because it's starting to hurt pretty bad. And I'll go into coughing fits. But the point is, it'll hurt worse when I go home and lay down. I'm here because I understand how serious this situation is. And it would feel weird to be home right now and not up here talking to millions of people. I wish this wasn't true. I wish this wasn't happening. But it is happening. And the average person is good in this country. I don't care if you're in government or in private business or a corporation or a school teacher or a farmer. I don't care what color you are. You want to be free. And you want justice. Well, we have to stop being naive. And actually, people aren't naive. 6% approval rating for Congress? People won't even believe that. Guys, put in Gallup, lowest approval for Congress ever, 6%. This is an illegitimate government. And it's not going to go quietly. And I don't just mean Obama. I mean the whole stinking thing. And the good news is, if everybody just starts speaking up, if everybody just starts saying no, even in little ways, this system will come down. When I went up to Dallas for the 50th anniversary of the assassination of JFK, when I went there, you guys found 13. That's an old one. It's all right. I'll pull it up. Just type in Congress has 6% approval rating. It was a big deal 3 months ago. I'll pull it up. It's all right. The issue is that when I went up to Dallas, if you're a radio listener, we're simulcasting TV at InfoWarsNews.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. There's free feeds at InfoWars.com/show. So you can go there and actually see the feeds, find the podcasts, and more. But I digress. The point I'm trying to get at here is that when I went up there, I had correspondents, 2 of them. The same thing happened to Gucciardi, was up there with me. But his was separate. It was a French international agency. I had the big, there was people there from NBC, CBS. There was only one barbecue place nearby. They come over, we appreciate your work. We know this is all real, and we know we're going to have jobs soon anyways. It's really a depression. Just keep it up. And we're trying to figure out how when we leave this business, I'm 65 years old, the guy would say, but I'm trying to figure out how we can start some media thing to fight this. So, we sit here going, oh, don't get us military, don't get us police. The globalists are scared. They're trying to get them ready to counter us because the truth is we're actually having a huge effect, not just this show, but the common sense out there. Yeah. And so I just want to say great job to the crew, great job to you, David, to our sponsors, our affiliates, our listeners. This is a big deal we're doing here, though.
That's why I say I don't feel worthy to be on the air sometimes, is because this really is a big deal. I mean, we really are seeing a technotronic, high-tech police state takeover. And we need to counter it. You know, you've got 3 children. I've got 3 children. Your comments on that, David, and then we're going to get into some really positive news.
Well, you know, I think when you look at this last election, when people see what they did to Ron Paul, to Gary Johnson, other people, it's something I experienced with the Libertarian Party years and years ago. They were very much afraid of Ron Paul and Gary Johnson, anybody who has a message. And so they do everything they can to suppress that message because it's so powerful. And although they can rig the debates, they can rig the media, just a little bit of that gets out, and it was very apparent to people this last time exactly what was going on. And now we've got Time magazine coming out and saying the same sorts of things that we've been saying for years. Years ago, Harvard did a study that was based in China where they looked at the effects of fluoride on children's IQ, and they saw that it lowered it by 20 points. Now, a lot of people pushed back and said, yeah, but those levels are higher than you're going to get in the U.S. Well, how do you know what the levels are if you just dump it in the water indiscriminately? You can't control for dosage if you're going to force medicate the public by dumping it into the water. Everybody's going to get a different dosage, and you need a different dosage if this was a fake.
Look, they've always known with rats for hundreds of years. The point is, the facts are out, and Time magazine lists fluoride and 4 other compounds as brain damaging the American people. Well, yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
I have John P. Holdren's book he wrote the year I was born. He's now the science czar, eco-science, bragging about how they're doing it.
Yeah. And so, but it's interesting that Time would come out with this. I mean, this came out about 10 days ago or so. We covered it on the nightly news. When this new study came out, what they did was Harvard and China went back and they looked at about 27 studies, if I remember the number correctly. It was over 2 dozen. And they averaged together.
Yeah, the article's on screen.
Yeah, they looked at the amount of exposure, the amount of fluoride, and then looked at the corresponding drop in IQ. There's no question that fluoride causes a drop in IQ.
There's no question rat poison lowers IQ?
That's right. There's no question about it. They're just trying to quantize how much this amount of fluoride is going to lower your IQ points. And what they came up with over the 27 studies was 7-point drop. And they repeat that here in Time magazine. They say exposure high levels of fluoride from drinking water can contribute to a 7-point drop in IQ on average.
By the way, that's a huge whitewash. Most of the studies, depending on the amount you get.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking 10, 20, 30 points.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's finally coming out, and we know.
But I mean, it came out in a Harvard study last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In 2000 and in 2010, they had almost every EPA and FDA scientist get together. I've had these scientists on that got it going. They bring almost unanimous signed medical toxicology research to the FDA and the EPA to say, take it out of the water.
Yes. Yes. People should get angry about this, very angry about this. They get angry about Obamacare, and they should. But this is forced medication. Even if you thought it was safe and effective, how can you justify them force medicating the public with anything?
Look, they want us dumbed down. That's why they teach 2. Look, I rest my case. The government teaches 2 + 2 = 4 in the public schools. No, I had a Freudian slip. 2 + 2 does equal 4. The government teaches under Common Core 2 + 2 = 5.
Yeah.
I just have trouble saying things that aren't right on purpose. The point here is that maybe a conspiracy theory for new listeners. You may think it's 5 because Obama said so.
Yeah.
But I will assure you, 4 + 4 = 8. 2 + 2 = 4. You can call me extreme or racist if you want. You know, you like your health care getting doubled? I mean, you know, it's a fact. They lied to you. And you can't keep your doctor. I want to come back and take phone calls on any of the issues we've raised for first-time callers. I'd like to hear from military, active duty, police, you name it, about the main mission now. And they all know this. Police are trained everywhere that veterans will bomb them with IEDs. That's been going on 5 years. Mm-hmm. What is your take on this? 877-789-ALEX is the Sunday phone number. It's different than the weekday show phone number. 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-2539. And we'd love to hear from you on the other side. And we've got a bunch of other news, too, but let's get to calls first. And then what else we got coming up, David?
Well, we got the NSA stalling in committee, even though you've got 130 House lawmakers have signed onto the bill, and in the Senate you got 20. They're holding it in committee. So you're talking about both of them being on the same side. The guys who run the committee are holding back any...
Oh, here we go. The way this hour is brought to you by the best storable foods company out there. It's organic. It lasts 25 years. It's what myself and my family use. It's mypatriotsupply.com/Alex to find the specials. And the toll-free number is on the site as well, 866-229-0927. The system wants us dependent on them. They want us on food stamps. One of the smartest things I think you can do is get high-quality, storable food. They've got a lot of other great preparedness items as well. MyPatriotSupply.com/Alex. And, of course, we also have amazing Molon Labe Pro-Second Amendment T-shirt that's out that I came up with the basic design for, but that our great graphics people put together. And it is the Spartan helmet with two M4s crossed with victory laurels around it, in Latin saying, "Come and take it, Infowars.com." And on the back it says Infowars.com. And then with Roman numerals, 1776. And we also have a version that says Infowars.com on the top with Molon Labe on the back. So that's available at InfoWarsStore.com. That's how you fight back in the Infowar and support this transmission. David, I want to go to phone calls right now to Freddie and Michael and Jesse and Gary and Jay and many others. But anything else you've been chomping at the bit to say before I do that?
Well, we just ran a story in the last week about how they're creating a national vehicle license plate database. They're doing the same thing. WorldNet Daily reports, WND reports, so they're doing this biometrically with your body. So this is a new DARPA project, new Defense Department project. Actually, I think this one is coming from the Air Force. They want to have a spy program that's going to use physiological signatures to identify, locate, and track specific individuals or groups of people.
Yeah, that's biometrics.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember like 15 years ago, the Pentagon said, we'll use biometrics of the heat res of your head and the top of your shoulders to track you. People said, oh, that's a lie.
Right.
Now that's in movies like Elysium. No, that's already going on.
Well, they're moving on
to
biometrics.
DNA.
Yeah, they're moving on biometrics on everything. It's like you see the fingerprint, on the iPhone. You've got some apps that have come out that'll identify you by your ear print on your phone. So they're working everything to identify you and to make it an ID so you can't get onto the internet without them knowing exactly who you are and where you are.
And then if you're not a good little globalist, they turn you off.
Exactly.
They've said 3 strikes, no judge, no jury. That's SOPA, that's CISPA, you're off. This is not our opinion. This is their goal. This is their plan. And they're just doing it. They're just moving forward with it.
And this company, Slick Login, that Google just bought, their way to get onto the internet is not with biometrics, but with your iPhone, which is going to be your 1984 device. And I think it's kind of interesting when they had the question and answer session with the people there at the technology conference, nobody really asked them about their access to your phone, just being able to turn your phone on at will. So they basically can turn your phone on whenever they want and send ultrasonic or low-frequency signals back and forth to verify that
Which I told people 3 years ago was in the Associated Press. They were doing federal grants in police departments where the light bulb, special type, communicate with your computer and transfer data between Homeland Security and the police outside the police network. And people always make a joke and go, oh, he says light bulbs are talking to the computer. People are so ignorant, man.
Yes, yes.
I mean, they think the sun is the center of the universe.
And they're going to use this for currency control, as we pointed out. They're going to take a look at where you are contacting the internet when you get onto your bank account, your online banking.
It's a total taxation drain.
Any money around if you're not in the place where they want you to be, or if you're a bad person.
All right, let's go to the phone calls. Again, if you just joined us up on Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.com, we have the big top story. U.S. Army builds fake city in Virginia to practice military occupation and gun confiscation in the United States. Is anybody concerned about how this just keeps expanding and is now out in the open? Gary in New Mexico, your first-time caller, welcome.
Yes, Alex. I hope you feel better.
Thank you, brother. I'm doing all right. Go ahead.
Well, I was able to visit our FEMA Region 6 Fusion Center in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And a buddy of mine who's one of the DHS goon squads, I was able to show him the actual documentation for Rex 84 and HR 645. And then I even showed him the video you guys had with the banned version with you and Jesse about the FEMA camps. And after they saw all of that, I got escorted out within about 10 minutes and told never come back here.
That's right. You're an evil American saying, hey, these threat fusion centers are international takeover hubs. And the RAND Corporation, by the way, admits that in their National Stabilization Force documents. Thank you so much for the call, sir.
Alex, that was a response of the Ohio National Guard when they were questions about this FOIA request that talked about the scenario where they had gun owners there. The guy said, that's the end of our conversation, just cut him off.
Yeah, you're not going to discuss the enemy.
That's right.
They don't want us to know they're engaged in treason. And they're just going to do it. And that's how you're manly, is that you train to take the guns. And
yeah.
And you have MSNBC announce that, the kids belong to the state. Yeah.
You point it out, you show them the documents, and they say, that's it, we're not going to talk anymore. They don't deny it. They don't try to walk around it even.
Yeah, because they know, because they're following them. They have a public, they're lying to you. Just like, folks, if you're doubting us, when school starts again next year in August, you'll see newscasts everywhere, no matter where you are in the world, saying it's the law to take vaccines. There is no law in the U.S. They lie and say it's the law, we're going to arrest you, when there is no law. This is an organized crime syndicate. And the average person following the crime syndicate orders isn't even evil. They just follow orders, which is the Nuremberg defense. Let's go to, you talk about that after we come back from break. I want to get your take on that, David. Let's talk to Michael in Texas. You're on the air. Welcome to the first-time caller.
Hey now, Brother Alex and Brother David, good afternoon. I had a report from South Texas about 400 guardsmen conducting a mock drill. My computer just crashed, but they're down there corralling people. I wanted you to understand this rhetoric. I think it'd be important for you guys and your audience to understand that they were quoted as saying that we are pretending it's a UT football game and there's contamination. So then they go to the extent of engaging in mock fighting and tearing clothes. You know.
Yeah, listen. It's civil unrest training. It's happening everywhere. And 3 years ago, there were articles in the San Diego paper where they were training to mow down citizens. So the PSYOP, this is in the news, they said, we'll just call it zombies and claim it's mass zombie killing drills. See, they've dehumanized you now, but we're seen as zombies, and we're called zombies by the NSA.
Well, and you had the shooting targets that went up, remember, of a pregnant woman.
No hesitation.
Yeah, no hesitation, shooting targets, right.
And the average cop or military, they think, well, I'm part of the system, we're good guys. Because they follow that idea. But no, the people on top are pure evil.
Yeah.
Anything else from South Texas, brother?
Well, one or two things. As far as taking back the whole idea that they are the degenerates, I understand. We need to understand that we're not the bad guys. But one more quick thing, as far as the seeds, guys, I got my first order of the survival seeds. They're in the ground. They have germinated. They're doing well. That's one of the few things I'm doing to help defend my family down here. And so I've been fighting the info war for a long time. In order to take action, there's a couple more steps. But beyond that, I'll let you guys go. Have a good week next week, and we'll catch you later.
Thank you so much, brother. Listen, it's a very wealthy planet. And a lot of ideas, a lot of intellectual property, a lot of good things happening, a lot of bad things happening as well. All that evil men and tyrants need to flourish, to quote Thomas Jefferson, is that good people do nothing. And the average person just looks at the world like it's a spectator event. They're not active. They're reactive.
That's right. You have to take responsibility for yourself and your family. And what he's doing is exactly right. Learning how to do some of these things that so many people have forgotten.
Very simple stuff.
Just growing your own food.
The Atlantic Council that advises the president said they're going to lose the battle against empowered, free-thinking individuals. We are the enemy. Good people are the enemy of this criminal takeover because we're going to stand against it. They know that. It's good versus evil, folks. Thank you for joining us. 2 segments left. We're about to go right back to your phone calls. Remember a few weeks ago, the governor of New York, Cuomo, came out and said, quote, if you're, pro-life or into guns, you're not welcome in New York State. That is what you hear in a fascist country. And then Clarence Thomas came out this week and said society is overly sensitive about race. And he said in the 60s when he was going to college in Georgia that he didn't see 1/10 as much race baiting and race obsession that he does now. Well, that's what my dad says. I mean, I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and went deer hunting, you name it, with good old boys. I never heard anything. Now, since the rise of MSNBC and all the rest of it, every white person is a devil. And go ahead.
Obama black, as if people didn't know that when he did twice. I mean, that's that he keeps coming up with this stuff, and they're using it as one camp versus the other. We've seen this in one occupation after the other. Depends on what the groups are. It could be black versus white. In another area, it could be Russians versus Ukrainians or whatever. But they always try to get different ethnic groups competing and fighting against each other.
And start over on that.
It's always
they took my cough button out because it was malfunctioning. And so I have to use the on-air, off-air thing for a cough button. And so I wonder why they were waving their hands every time I kept turning my mic off so I could cough.
Oh.
Start over.
Well, I was just saying, it's amazing how we were going to have the end of racism, and we did elect a black president twice. And yet now we hear that
that only makes it worse.
That his approval ratings are down because we discovered somehow that he's black. That's ridiculous.
Well, he said just a few weeks ago, he said, my approval rating's down because of racism. And the truth is, every day I see these type of articles, and the papers don't even want to say it, but knock that white boy out, arrest made after a mob of teens, black teens I should add, attacked disabled vet, beat him half to death and robbed him and videotaped it, just like they do in Austin every day. And the media covers it, but will never point out it's racial while they say racial things. Can you imagine if white people went out and found some black people and beat them up?
It's a very effective control technique to put one group against another. And quite frankly, I think that's what they want to do in terms of bringing in blanket numbers of illegal immigrants. They know that they can divide and conquer the population. They can keep them separate, keep them distinct, and pit them against each other. That's what they want to do. Everything that Obama said he was going to do, he's done just the opposite.
Sure, and then that's his job.
Or whether it's healing of the races.
That's why they say the Tea Party's racist, so that nobody who's not white will ever go get into the Bill of Rights and Constitution. It's like, it's racist if you don't want a foreign bank to run the government and take all your money. Oh, we'll take all my money. It's racist if you think it's creepy that MSNBC says that your children belong to the state. I mean, I've seen them say I'm, quote, deeply racist on MSNBC. And then they don't show any clip of me saying something deeply racist. These are literal race pimps who know they're race pimps.
And they constantly conflate the American Family Association, the Family Research Council, these mainline evangelical Christian groups. They constantly conflate them with the Ku Klux Klan.
They do that to me.
Racist and hate it.
Even though the Klan and all the white supremacist groups, you go to their website, they hate me more than Netanyahu.
Yeah.
But the ADL and Southern Poverty Law Center don't care. They give awards to Soros, a real Nazi collaborator.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
All right, let's go to calls quick now. We're not going to say anything else, folks. We're going to take your calls. Freddie in North Dakota, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Go ahead.
I was just listening to you talk about that city that they're building up there, and was just curious if you'd ever heard or knew of Bill Cooper.
Yes, he was a UFO guy. Yeah, he covered a lot of that kind of stuff.
Right. He's from my hometown. I'm up in North Dakota now, so I can make my child support payments. But he actually relocated right before he got killed to Springerville, Arizona, and he pirated a radio station up on top of the hill. And he talked a lot about the things that are just starting to a lot of the stuff.
Yeah, no, he did talk about a lot of stuff that's just come true and happened. A very interesting radio broadcaster. Anything else?
Yeah, and I just want to let you know that few weeks ago, I heard you mention a couple times that you didn't know because they came in and got him, and used the sheriff department, but it was other people that got him, and you said a couple times how you don't know why you're allowed to live, and I'm here to tell you right now that I believe that it's God that's allowed you to live, and
well, they've tried to set me up a lot of times. They've tried to set me up a lot of times and things, but I appreciate your call. You know, in the case of Bill Cooper, he was a really good broadcaster, interesting guy. He was a super ultra hothead. And there were kids that kept partying on the land next to his, and then he would run them off. And then the police came, and if you read the police report, he shot one of them in the face before they shot him. And I'm not glad that they shot him. I think it's terrible. But I think that's one reason I'm alive is I'm not, Yeah. I mean, if kids are making too much noise, I'm going to go ask them nicely to be quiet a few times, then I'm going to call the police on them. I'm not going to go wave firearms at them. But that's a side issue. He was under a lot of stress. He was a highly decorated gunboat captain from Vietnam, probably had PTSD. But he was a really smart guy. And did a great broadcast one time where he gave me the BSer Award of the Century. I really like that. It's ridiculous. But good stuff there. Kind of weird, though, trivia. The average listener the average Patriot show just talks about all this archaic, stuff, and there's no real news. But we cover news here. Jesse in Texas, go ahead.
Hey, Alex, I hope you feel better, first off, and hope you don't have whatever that thing that's been going wrong here.
Well, we'll see. Soon I'll have a cough button back, so I won't have to cough on air.
Yeah. First off, I just want to say I think it's more frightening that probably most Americans won't even hear that they've been trained to basically come against us in our homes and places of business and whatnot. I think that's more frightening that people just don't pay attention.
Well, I mean, this happens all over the world. This is standard. We know exactly what's happening. And we give people all the facts and the documents and everything else, and it's just unbelievable. They're training for a total paramilitary takeover of the country during an organized collapse.
Yep. And I had another thing, too. I tried to send emails to you guys, and it seems that Google blocks my emails. Whenever I send them, it says it's a invalid destination.
Yeah, who knows?
We'll
have to look into that. I appreciate your call. I really can't do little factoid inside baseball stuff here on air because I don't know.
You know, Alex, if they were training against the Russians, if they had a Russian city, if they had Russian signs all over everything, don't you think that the Russians would understand that they were the target? But the American people don't understand that they're the target, even when they put it in their face like this.
No, you're right. They just keep denying. The military goes, no, it's not for you, even though it's churches and street signs. And
you know, we go back and we look at the run-up to Hitler and we say, how could everybody have missed the signs? People don't want to believe that this could happen. And so they push this off. And it's essentially a doublethink, like they talked about in 1984. Like Orwell talked about, you can hold these contradicting views at the same time. You can suppress what you actually see out there is happening and hold this sunny disposition.
Well, exactly. I mean, Obama doesn't have a lot of supporters now, but still those that do support him just say, well, he's a winner and you're just mad that, you know, our guy's in. I wasn't for George W. Bush either.
Oh, this goes back a long way. I mean,
exactly. I mean,
back to Oliver North and Rex 84 and even beyond that.
Look at the Republican leadership.
Yeah.
Absolutely working with Obama to get Obamacare passed. Why hasn't Obamacare been repealed? Totally unpopular.
Oh, yeah. Well, why haven't they done anything about the NSA?
Because this is what the establishment wants.
Exactly. Exactly.
We're going to go to break and come back in the final segment. And I'm not mad at the callers bringing up, hey, my email bounces, or hey, what do you think of this? It's just that I can't answer stuff like that on air. I mean, it's like, it's just little factoids and stuff. And people also call up on air and they want me to screen their call on air. Hey, I'd like to talk about this. No, you're on air. When we come back, Jay, Wiz, Mark, Justin, and others, we're going to go right to you directly. When we come back out of this break, we're going to see what you'd like to talk about here worldwide coming up, ladies and gentlemen. Infowars.com. Everybody out there engaged in evil, better think about that. When I commit evil, I'm conscious of it and don't like it. Sometimes I just can't help it. None of us are perfect, but our hearts, that's what God looks at, and my heart is good. I want to be good. Final segment, I want to jam in as many phone calls as possible. Briefly, it's up on Infowars.com from ClimateDepot.com. Bill Nye confuses South Pole with North Pole in climate debate. He's now admitted that it was wrong. The North Pole and the South Pole have record ice right now. They always point satellites at it in the summer when they shrink.
I can understand how you get that confused because it's down at the Antarctic where it's summer where these guys got stuck on the ice and they had to get the rescuers to come pick them up.
Point is that
got stuck.
Point is it's all a fraud. But
yeah.
The reason I raise this is that they're not making a mistake. When they get caught, they backtrack. Look at Kerry saying the volcano was caused by global warming. I mean,
that's right. Man-made global warming. So there's two different things. They're saying that it's man-made global warming volcanoes. So,
which has nothing to do with it.
No.
I mean, no scientists say that. I mean, this is just total kookville. But they want to get carbon taxes in and take over society. Jay in North Carolina, go ahead. You're on the air.
Hi, Alex. I woke up on 9/11 and I found you a year later, and we're trying to work on solutions to the problems that we're having. I'm worried about a lot of things in this country. I listen to you every day. We're constituting common law grand juries in all 3,141 counties. We've got 94 counties constituted right now. New York, this started in New York State, and they have 64 counties. They've got over half of their counties. They've got 33 constituted, and they're having elections in another 15 counties this week.
Yeah, here's the deal. The New World Order doesn't recognize all that, and I understand that in policy, you could say that it has some place in common law since the Magna Carta of 1215. It's just some of the talk show hosts and people that every year, you know, that this is going to fix everything, and it never does. And they just restart the thing up over again. But send me some info on that information. We need to change the entire culture back to a culture of liberty, where people are informed about their basic freedoms and jealously guard them. Jealously guard them. Let's go ahead and talk to, who's up next here? Wiz in Ohio. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Alex, David, it's a pleasure to talk to you both. Alex, I hope you feel better soon.
Thank you.
Hear that you're under the weather.
Hey, you've got the Army up there trying to confiscate your guns. It's in the news. How do you like that?
Well, actually, I'm just passing through Ohio, but I travel a lot through Ohio, Iowa, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Carolinas. So I get around. But main point that I was wanted to raise was that people say, well, this is the problem. The problem is the NSA, or the problem is this, or the problem is that. And that's true. Those things are all...
The problem is we have a rogue criminal government.
Well, actually, I think the problem lies with the American public itself.
I agree.
They will only get away with as much as the American public allows them to. So that's one of my main points. My question for you, Alex and David, is this. Here's Obama now in his second term, already, okay, so his...
Setting the precedent to be a dictator so that he can leave and a new dictator come in, yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. He's now...
And again, it's a new thing. It's an elected dictator. Mm-hmm. So they come in, they get elected, but then they operate as a dictatorship outside of the other branches of government.
Yes.
My point is that his approval ratings are so low and all this stuff, but the damage is already done. I don't understand why the American public doesn't recognize these things much more quickly. It's just history repeating.
Because they were raised from birth with 5 poisons put in their water, as the Time magazine admits, to brain damage them. I appreciate your call. And because they were raised watching television the whole time. Go ahead.
No, I said thanks for taking my call. First time caller. Have a great night.
Thank you. God bless you for calling in.
You look at what's going on with Congress. They've only got a 9% approval rating. So I guess he's looking.
Look, I found it at 6%. I found it and put it up earlier.
Yeah.
I found it. In fact, I'll put it back up again right now.
So he says I can go a lot further. They don't like me. They can go further down.
Yeah, it's 6. It's now 6.
Yeah.
Let's talk to Mark in Missouri. Mark, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Alex.
Hey, buddy.
How we doing?
I'm doing all right. Go ahead.
Hey, I wanted to make a quick point here. The United States is supposed to be a Protestant nation. That's how it started. And we are under attack by the same forces that drove people here in the first place in search of religious freedom. And the reformers, Luther, Wycliffe, Huss, Calvin, their research proved that the Pope of Rome is the Antichrist, and the first beast in Revelation 13, if you use the Bible to decipher the prophecy, is the Roman Catholic Empire, and the second beast with lamb-like horns that speaks like a dragon is the United States.
Sure. Let me just say this, though. Let me just say this. We opened the phones up to talk about the military stuff, and it's fine that people are calling in about everything under the sun. It's kind of interesting. But I just want to ask this question, and I know this country was founded originally as a colony, predominantly Protestant. My ancestors on both sides of the family came over on the Mayflower in one group of my kin on my mom and dad's side. But at the same time, sure, people can sit there and talk about the fights of the Reformation and all the stuff that went on with Martin Luther and the rest of it, and kind of the Reformation coming out of the Renaissance. And that undoubtedly, is what happened historically. My issue is all these big mainline Protestant churches are like, turn your guns in, worship government. The government is basically, Obama is basically the Pope. Mm-hmm. And then you got the United States government doing everything it can to kind of, and I'm not defending Catholics, I'm not getting into a fight on this, but the media and stuff has been going after the Catholics, in my view. So I think there's a balkanization here. I think down the road things will get more consolidated. David, what's your take? And I appreciate your call.
Well, I think the real danger here is the church's interpretation in so many places of Romans 13. To say that if the government is there, God put it there, you better get down and bow to it. That's not the proper interpretation. We got a great book by Chuck Baldwin that we sell here about that. People need to educate themselves. Just read it and substitute Hitler and see if that makes any sense.
Well, the entire Bible is about people being killed or tortured for not following government orders.
Yeah, you can see what the Apostle Paul did. I mean,
You mean the terrorist?
He stood up for his rights. I mean, all through the Bible, you have a pattern of people standing up for their freedom, standing up to defend the defenseless, to defend the fatherless, and to help other people, and to take the lead in that, to be shepherds in that. It's not to be passive to evil men. That's not the intent of the Bible.
Well, that's right.
You see it throughout.
But people just want to cop out. They're scared of the government.
That's right.
And so the government's going to eat their lunch with the criminals that run it. I mean, it's that simple, folks. A nation of sheep will be ruled by wolves. And according to these modern churches, Christ would be a terrorist. He spoke out against the banks. He beat bankers with bullwhips, with cat o' nine tails. So there you go. Or was it a riding crop? I forget. What was it he beat him with in the temple? It was some kind of whip.
Yeah.
And he'd be sent to Gitmo for that today.
That's right.
Let's talk to Justin in Colorado. Justin, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hello, Alex.
Hey.
Hey, I just want to say I've been listening to you for about 9 years, and I've been listening to you religiously. I love you guys. All right, but I moved out to this town in Colorado about 3 years ago from L.A. to work in the oil field. There's no work out in L.A., so I moved out here, and I've never seen any chemtrails ever. And this is a small town, about 2,500 people.
That's the weather modification that's going on. The government admits they're doing.
Yeah.
They call it geoengineering, though. Go ahead.
Or persistent chemtrails.
I've seen I know about the chemtrails. I've seen all the videos. I've seen everything.
No, I was talking for new listeners that may not know what that is.
All right, sorry, sir.
And he thought I was putting him down.
Oh.
So you see, there's a thing in talk radio where you've got to introduce a topic. Nobody does this free for all where it's just any. Oh, our phone system just shut down. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Well, good. And I might sound grumpy towards the callers today. I apologize. I'm really sick.
Yeah. I can't believe you're doing the radio. I saw you before the show. I didn't think you were going to do the whole show.
Well, it's a lot better than just laying on the couch of the bed feeling like I've been run over.
True.
Feels a lot better, actually. It's kind of warm, too, and a little toasty. I could roast chestnuts on my face or whatever.
That's right.
Anyways, great job with the crew coming in on Sundays. We're here every Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then, of course, weekdays, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And you can go to the audio and free video feeds and everything at Infowars.com/show. It has the free podcast. And we'll turn this around if people just spread the word about the show and don't act like slaves to government. I mean, if I was walking down the road and ran from a chihuahua, it would chase me trying to bite me. And the wicked flee when none pursue. Well, we flee from the system and grovel to it and bow. And I see the average American, and it's just incredible how much they love to grovel. And I think about how un-American that is. And I think about seeing the movie finally last night on Blu-ray of Captain Phillips, which is a true story, how nobody on the ships can arm themselves. Only government can. So it took a troop ship and 2 destroyers to save him. And then it's like, oh, they're heroes and all this stuff. And it's just like, what a joke. And I'm not saying that, the Navy SEALs at 60 yards weren't good at shooting people in the head.
But they want to pacify.
I did that when I was 5 years old, by the way. Do what?
They want to pacify everybody and make them totally dependent on the government for everything. Not just for your food and your clothing and your housing, but also for your safety. And they want to create a security state.
Absolutely, absolutely. Of course, there are some Navy SEALs that can shoot people at 3 miles away, so I can't do that. My point is the movie's incredible propaganda. God bless you all. See you back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central, Lord willing. If I'm sick, David will be here.
My friends.